Hey, welcome. I'm so glad you guys are here. I want to give you guys an update of what's going on, what we know, what we don't know. So we are in South Carolina. I'm not even close to unpacking. There's nothing on my bookshelves. Um, but we are working on it. So we arrived Sunday, late Sunday. And this is the following Sunday. So I guess we've been here for a week and we are starting to get settled. So okay, let me share a little bit of where we came from and where we're going. So basically, we see birth work as ministry, and that's really been the calling on our lives for a decade now. And it was actually very unexpected the way God brought me into birth work. Um, I had a heart for it, but I didn't know that that birth work and ministry really like overlapped and combined. And when he first put that call in my life, I couldn't even find that. People are like, those don't really overlap. But as we learned when we were in our missions training, is there are three times in a person's life where they're most open to spiritual conversations, spiritual things, and that is birth, death, and marriage. And so we know that the pastors can already oversee the marriage ceremony and offer the gospel. They can already oversee the funeral ceremony and offer the gospel. And those are generally one day, one events, kind of, where birth is a season for mom as she's pregnant into labor and delivery and into the postpartum. And it's a season that they generally come back to and come back to. And so it can be years and not just a day or an event. And so it really gives an opportunity for women to come alongside of women and serve them during the season and be the hands and feet of Jesus by meeting those spiritual and physical needs. And so as a doula, so I train doulas. I'm a doula. I've been a doula for a decade. A doula is a professional, non-medical person that comes alongside of a woman during pregnancy, birth, and postpartum to provide continuous physical, emotional, educational, advocacy, and spiritual support during that season that I just talked about. And a midwife is more like an OB. So an OBGYN does obstetrics and gynecology, but they can also do surgery. A midwife is trained in physiological birth and labor. They can use medications and all of the things. They're a medical provider for maternal health, but they don't do surgery. So you can have nurse midwives in a hospital. They're called CNMs, certified nurse midwives. They're in the hospital. Generally, they can do birth centers and different things, but they're generally the ones in the hospital. And they're nurses that get master's degrees in midwifery. And then you have a CPM, which is a certified professional midwife, and they generally do home births. They don't get privileges into hospitals. And so a CPM would do a home birth or a birth center birth, depending on the state. So we're in the state of a lot of you are in the state of Indiana where we're from. And in Indiana, CNMs are almost all hospital only, and CPMs are home birth only. And then our birth centers, like Holy Family Birth Center, is only allowed to have nurse midwives, and so not a CPM. In other states, the state in South Carolina, CPMs, certified professional midwives who do home births, can also do birth centers. And nurse midwives can do hospitals and birth centers. So it kind of depends on state to state. Every place is different. Indiana is a really tough state to become a midwife. And so there's extra layers when they legalized it not that long ago. Like somewhere maybe 15 years. I should look it up because I don't really know. 10 to 15, more than 10, less than 20, I think. So somewhere in that 15-year range. So before that, it was illegal to have home births with a midwife in Indiana. And so as that transition has happened, they added some extra layers that makes it more difficult than, say, South Carolina. And so I knew that I didn't necessarily want to do midwifery the way that I saw it in Indiana. Almost all the midwives I know basically work solo. So they work on their own. So they're always on call. And I worked at the birth center. I worked at Holy Family Birth Center for several months before our youngest was born. And I loved the group model. And I loved that you could care for more women while also caring for your family. So there was somewhat of a balance to it because you were sharing the load. And so as I prayed through what that looked like and God's call for what do we do with birth work ministry, he led me to midwifery, but I really fought it because I didn't understand how that made sense when I didn't love what I was seeing where I was. and how that would work out. And so through all of that, I found out about international midwifery. So certified international midwifery, a CIM, and there was opportunity to do that in the Philippines. And so I was like, that's it. That's all of the loves and passions and talents and all the things that the Lord put in my heart, like together. And I was already serving immigrants and refugees. I already had a heart for missions and international work. And so I was like, that midwifery makes sense. That's it. And so he opened doors for us to do that. And though the road was a little windy, he had us exactly where we were meant to be. I just didn't know that was the path when we started. But he was so faithful in providing and opening and closing doors as needed there. And so we went to the Philippines and we hoped to be there for a whole nother year. So um, the goal was 2.5 years. And I actually was very lucky. Lucky. God made it so I could finish my CIM before we came home in the summer. So our boys, Kason and Gage, Kason's oldest, and then Gage, they were both engaged and getting married, one in the beginning of May and one at the end of June. And so we had known about the one in June. And so we were planning on coming back for the summer for that wedding. And then the other one got engaged. And so we had to move everything up because that was sooner than we were planning on coming back. And it was based on college schedules and housing and all this. And so, but as we were going through the process of getting ready to come back, the Lord kind of really shut some doors. And so we already knew that our housing was up in May. And so we knew that when we came back from the weddings, we would have to find a new location. And we were in the most perfect location. That is such a God story. Um, I would love to, I gotta figure out how to share that. But this was like a huge hurdle that the Lord had in place and made that known to us without us knowing it until retrospect. But and so we had the perfect house and the perfect location for what we were doing there, and it was perfect. And so that door was closing, so we no longer had that place that we could live. It was a missions house for an organization. And at the time, we were subleasing from another missionary who was on furlough in the US. But they had other missionaries coming in after that. And so we had to leave for their other missionaries that were next. And so we had looked for housing and it was door closed after door closed after door closed. So where I was serving at the birth center and learning was, let's say, in Ossian, if you're from Indiana, Wells County, say that's like Ossian. And then where we lived and where our church was, we call that Bluffton. And so that doesn't sound too bad when you have a vehicle. But when you don't, and it's public transit and all the things, it made sense to be in, say, the Bluffton community because it really was its own community where our daughter could get on a trike and stay within the community. And she was very mobile on her own. But I'm the one who had to travel to the next town to the birth center. So we looked where we were, which was ideal. And then we looked in where the birth center was, and there's not as much public transit and that sort of thing. And so it would have been really difficult for her to get back and forth to church as well. And just a whole lot of logistics, and we just couldn't find anything. So there was a few things that were like 2 bedrooms that were very, very small, but with a teenage boy and teenage girls, we really needed a 3 bedroom. And so we just could not find anything, and there just wasn't a clear path there. The other thing is, I did get my birth and education in quicker, which is amazing. Um, the thing is, the birth center is a training facility. So they have four sets of midwives that are teams. So they have 8 midwives that work 24 on, 48 off. And so they're staffed. They're well staffed. They're good. They don't need a foreigner to come in and help in any way per se in that area. So they have the midwives that they need. And so it's a great opportunity to go and learn and take in all of their experience, but it's not a place that they needed me, if that makes sense. And so to stay after learning, there was this question of, in that specific spot, what would I be doing? Because they all have their paid positions, they all have their shifts. And so where would I be? And so the goal there would still be to train and mentor and bring in interns and all of that. Um, and so that's still something that I'm doing from here. And so I'll talk about that in a little bit too. So what all does that look like? So there was just not the opportunity there once school was done to be able to um, stay. And then there was also not housing to be able to stay. And there wasn't a clear path of what that looked like in that moment. And I've been asked to do trainings in two or three places in the Philippines, as well as India, Mexico, places all over the world. So we were thinking, how do we do that and do that well? Training and mentoring and continuing to do that and bring more women into birth work ministry. And is that something that needs to be done while in the Philippines? So as this was all like, as we were praying through all of this, um, someone approached me and said, "Hey, if you're going to be in the States, I would love for you to come check us out, see our practice, and consider working with us. I just feel like God is leading me to you, and people have brought you to my attention. Two people have brought you to my attention, and I think you would be a perfect fit for this spot that we have." And so this midwife had been following me and we were Facebook friends, but I didn't know who she was. I don't know how we became Facebook friends, but um so she reached out to me and said, if you stay in the States, we would love to talk and see, what that looks like. So as I got my CIM, so my certified international midwife, so I'm so close. I just need to really sit and study and take the exam. But it's been really wild and crazy. So I haven't gotten to do that yet. It's on the agenda. It's just I need to study. Um, but all of those things that I did and learned that I needed to do over there, I did get accomplished. And so the thing is, my CIM, my Certified International Midwife, it's not recognized in the States. So there's a couple places that I could potentially work um, in a roundabout way. But the goal is more international. And it's a little different because remember how I was talking about there's CPM and then there's a CNM. Well, a CIM is kind of in the middle where you get kind of some hospital skills and more medical skills, but then you also get the more holistic hands off skills. So you kind of get this in between perspective, which I love. It just doesn't translate here very well. And so this midwife has a midwifery practice with we'll call them three and a half midwives. There's one midwife who's about to be a sit for her exam and will be a midwife. So four midwives in her practice, plus birth assistants and staff and things like that. So, but they birth, so it's like a birthing center, except they don't birth there. They have a clinic. So the women come for prenatals there. They come for different things, labs and things into the clinic. And the clinic's open basically 2 days a week. And then the births and everything are at home. And then the initial postpartums are at home as well. So that was not necessarily what I was looking for, or I knew that I wanted a group practice. And I thought it would be a birth center because that's how I see group practices. That's what I've known as group practices. So this is a variation of that. And so we came down and the month of May, basically between the weddings, and we're like, okay, we're going to give it a month. I'm going to meet the team. I'm going to do births. I got to go to 6 births, I think, maybe 7 births, and do births with this group and go to clinic when they had clinic days. And we were kind of really blown away with the confirmations of what the Lord was saying, that this is where I want you next. And so this wasn't, I'll be honest, I like making my plans. Shanna is really good at making a 1 year, 2 year, 5 year plan. I can tell you in like this path that I want to go down and like visual and how this could work. And like I can bring God into that and I am really good at explaining to God what I think makes sense. And so this was not even um my plan, I guess we'll say it that way. This was such an opportunity, and the way that God orchestrated it and then reconfirmed it and reconfirmed it. This was not something that we were like, yes, let's sell everything and move to another state. We did know that if we stayed in the States that we wouldn't stay in Fort Wayne in Indiana because of the way midwifery is there. We knew that we would move to a different state. And there was a couple of states that we were praying about. And South Carolina was not even on that list. I didn't even know, I mean, I don't really know anyone here. And so when I made a post about potentially staying in the US, in the Christian midwifery group, I had several opportunities. I was really blown away by that too, where Montana, Texas, Tennessee, South Carolina, Ohio, and some others. And I was just like, what do I do with all this? So I really just kind of left it and I just kept praying through that because I wanted it to be God's plan, not Shanna's plan. I think I'm really good at planning, but God always like pivots me, and then what He does is always so much greater. And so at this wise old age of 41, I'm like, okay, Lord, like I'm not going to try to figure this all out. I want to figure it all out. I want to have all the answers, but I always get it wrong because my thinking is so much smaller than yours. And so here it is. Like here we are. Here we are. Send us. Where is it that you want us? And if it's in South Carolina, you need to make that really, really clear because it is so much work to get the house ready and to sell the house and to be there when they want us there and all of the things that you really got to make a way where I don't see a way. You got to, show us so clearly that we cannot deny that we can make this happen because it's so much work and it's a lot on our family. Um, we plan on staying in the Philippines till Emery's senior year, and she's our next oldest living at home. And so we were going to be in the Philippines for another year and then come home for her senior year, do more support raising, fundraising, and let her like get a driver's license and do her senior year things. And now she's going into her junior year. So we plan on staying here for her junior, senior year because we don't want to move her again and let her get her driver's license and all of the things. And so yeah, it was a big pivot and change, but we were open to God, where do you want us? The Philippines is really on our hearts. It's on Emery's too. We'll definitely be going back. Like I said, I have like 3 opportunities to go train up more doulas and birth workers to use birth work as a way to share the gospel and reach women in communities. And but I don't know what that looks like short term or long term. And again, every time that Shanna makes plans, the Lord says, "Ha." Kind of, but watch this. And so I'm just like, okay, Lord, I don't know, but we're open and we're willing. And so after we came down to South Carolina, spent that month here, we're like, okay, so what do we do now? Because this was very different. I mean, there was definitely a part of us that was like, okay, we're going to go to South Carolina and to confirm that that's not the place, so we can check that off our list because that's a whole lot of work and that's a very different of a direction in a sense. And but we got to go check the box because we want to be open to the way that the Lord was leading us there, that we wanted to confirm that that was or wasn't what he wanted. And so we didn't even do a ton of research going into it because as I was like trying to do research and do different things, he was like, we don't even know if that's where we're going. So you're putting all this time and energy into something that, may not even be a good option. Let's just go and pray through it and feel it and meet everyone and then go from there. Let's not try to get the cart before the horse. Let's try not to figure out what Shanna thinks is a good idea. And so that's what we did. And we did some research, but not my like full blown dive like I normally do. And so at the end of our time here, we did look at apartments and things like that. Because I knew that she wanted me to be here by the beginning of August to start working in their practice. And so we worked with somebody, we looked at a lot of different places that when we left South Carolina, we weren't really sure where we were going to live. And there was a whole process up to, mid-July of where exactly how that was going to all pan out. But we do have a place here. It's outside of Greenville. So let's say this is Greenville. And trying to think of when you look at a map. So over here, so here's Greenville. Here's like North Carolina up here. Greenville, the clinic is kind of like right here. And then over here is like Spartanburg. And then we live up here above Spartanburg. So I do have a little bit of a commute, but where we live has everything kind of, or Spartanburg does. So we live like 35 to 45 minutes, depending on the time of day, to the clinic. I will be going to the clinic on Wednesdays, so I'll have a very long Wednesday day, but Wednesdays I'm off call for births. So I can go more into that, but I'll be in the clinic all day learning skills, blood draws, prenatals, postpartums, um, all sorts of things. But I will also be doing blood draws and labs, which is great because I haven't learned that skill well. I don't know if you know this about me, but I did surgically remove corneas for transplant for several years. And I did do femoral blood draws on over 300 deceased people. And it was a very, very big needle. Okay, that's not, this is the tube. I don't know. But the needle was very long and it was very big, a very big needle into the femoral artery, into the leg. But they have no blood flow because they've already passed. And so it's more of a stab and draw. It's like a straight down versus what I'm going to do for women will be a blood draw more like an IV and the angle and the precision of the blood draw. So we do in-house labs. And so I'll be learning that. And part of what I'll do there is drawing labs, which is a great skill that I am excited to learn. I've done IVs as a EMT, an advanced EMT, but that was before Emery was born and she's about to turn 16. So it's been a minute. And blood draws are different than IVs, but they're similar, more than the blood draws that I was doing on a femoral deceased person. They couldn't complain if I missed. And so a little different. So I will have clinic and then I'll have on-call time where I attend home births with this group of midwives as a student slash birth assistant. This group really wants me to finish my US certification, which I'm like halfway through, which is to become the home birth CPM that I talked about. So a certified professional midwife. And that would give me credentials in a lot of states. I don't know how many states, but not in Indiana, but a lot of states that accept a PEP, CPM. There's a lot to that, but a lot more opportunity than what I currently have as a CIM or an almost CIM. The goal is still international. The goal is still birth work is ministry. The goal is still loving people well through this season and meeting both physical and spiritual needs. And so as a midwife, so I'm still a doula, but as a midwife, I will also be their like practitioner, their provider, and I can do so much more. And once I can do so much more, I can also teach so much more, which is the ultimate goal. So there is so much multiplication in teaching and training and discipleship. And so as I train doulas, instead of reaching my own 30 clients a year, if I can train 100 doulas that reach 30 clients a year, I'm helping to reach 300, that's not right, 3,000 families that I wouldn't have been able to reach in one spot doing what I'm doing. And so the impact and the ripple of if I can pour into doulas, Christ-minded, birth work as ministry doulas, and I pour into them and they pour into 30 families in their community. And I do that for like 100 doulas a year. That's 3,000 families that I am inadvertently pouring into through pouring into these women and discipling these women to be Christian birth workers. And the goal in the future is to do the same thing with midwives. Because midwives, when you go into the Philippines, if you go into Africa, those are they don't have the doulas. They need women who can provide medical care and attention to save moms and babies. And so the goal there is to then train and equip and mentor Christian midwives throughout the world to, again, meet those physical and spiritual needs of the women in the communities. Because if we have strong, well-loved, supported women, then their families thrive. And so if I can pour into midwives, again, they're going to be serving hundreds of women in Africa and in Asia that I will never have the opportunity to, in languages that I could never learn. And doing so much more by discipling them so that then they can disciple within their own community, their own culture, their own language. And so to be a great midwifery teacher, I have to be a great midwifery student first. And part of the in-between is teaching some of these classes that helping babies breathe, so newborn resuscitation, helping mothers survive postpartum hemorrhage, so saving moms who have postpartum bleeds. Those are kind of the bridge between what I already know and where I'm going to learn, where I can teach those as like an EMT and as a doula midwife, teaching those classes can kind of bridge that gap in between and also save moms and babies and gives an open door into communities to have a rapport, to be able to bring in the gospel. And so there's a lot of different avenues. So how does that bring us back to South Carolina? That's a great question. There is so much that I don't know because it's not my job to figure it out, even though I really wish it was kind of. But again, God is so much better at doing that, and his outcomes are way better than what Shanna can imagine. And so we are here open-handed, working with this great team. Um, I will continue to homeschool. So I have clinic on Wednesdays, so there'll be stuff for them to do on Wednesdays, but I will homeschool them and then I'll be on call and I'm alternating on call. So it's not just me. Um, but the majority is me to continue to learn the skills, learn how to best serve women as a midwife in the US or take those skills anywhere in the world. This is a very unique and special opportunity that I've really been praying for years, and God brought it to me. And so we've been prayerfully considering this since she reached out because we're just like, this looks so amazing on paper, but like, is this really real? Like, but it's also this huge move, and how is this going to affect our kids and all of the things? And so we still see birth work as ministry and as my calling into ministry. And so I will continue to train doulas online. But we also have the nonprofit, which is Journey Birth and Wellness, that we've had where we came alongside in Fort Wayne. We came alongside immigrants, refugees, and teen moms during pregnancy, birth, and postpartum through doula services and childbirth ed. Journey Birth and Wellness still exists, but it now exists also under the name of Created to Birth. And so Created to Birth will come alongside internationals and train doulas, childbirth educators, and open doors and opportunities to those sorts of trainings and things that they might not already have in their country. And something that they also then get mentorship. And then, so this is what I've seen. So if I do a training in person, it's great. And they can take a lot from that. But when we do trainings, we usually do like 3 to 4 days, 4.5 days of just like train, info. It's like a fire hydrant. And in a lot of these communities, they're not used to information being just like thrown at them so much so quick. And so what I've seen is, and what the Lord has laid on my heart is a slower mentorship of finding these core believing women who want to use birth work as ministry and pouring it into them on a regular basis through Zoom and giving them smaller chunks of the education and skills and confidence and build on that, and then go do the in-person where they have a really strong foundation and they already have a good grip and understanding, and then go do some of these other things that make more sense in person, but build up to that and mentor and disciple them through this process so that again they can have that ripple effect of multiplication in their community in a way that they are uniquely designed to do. And so I can do that from anywhere. And the beauty of it is I can be poured into by this group who's pouring into and mentoring me while I pour into and mentor these other women in the Philippines. And there is an opportunity in another Asian country that they desperately want this as well. And so to pour into that group of women too, I can do both, but I can't physically be in both of those countries. But the nice thing is I can do it from here or from anywhere. And so, so that is the goal, to continue to do ministry, birth work ministry, by mentoring and training and discipling women in these other countries, like groups of them, so that they can pour into their own community while I'm also being poured into. There's also going to be some ministry here, right where we're at. We're still praying about not taking on too much, and Lord, what does that look like, and where do you have us here to serve as well? So there will be that. I have ideas. I always have ideas. I have ideas for days, but again, I don't want to get ahead of myself because that might not be exactly what the Lord wants, but I do see some real needs and gaps here of where we can step in and do birth work ministry here as well. And so that's a whole lot of different things. So what we do know is that we will be here for the next 2 years while Emery finishes high school. and I will be being poured into and learning and training and building my skills as a midwife. And so Josh is currently not here, or I'd make him like pop in. He kind of dropped us off, and we had a group that we came down here, dropped off all of our stuff, and then they headed back to Indiana. So he's currently in Indiana at our house, painting it, doing all the things to put it on the market, and then he'll be coming back down. And so he actually has a history of painting professionally prior to going into ministry. And when we first met, he painted for several years professionally, and he's done painting on and off. And so down here, this area is like growing like crazy. For a while, there was 173 new people moving to the Greenville area every single day, every single day. So everywhere you look, there's construction. It's like being all these people are coming from other cities like Charlotte, Charleston, Nashville, Atlanta, all Asheville. They're all like within 1 to 2 to 3 hours. And so all these other cities, they're moving here because it was a cheaper cost of living. But that is starting to skyrocket, and there's a lot of gentrification in the Greenville area. And so that's why we're not in the Greenville area. Can't afford the Greenville area, but so he's hoping to come down here when he's done and work on painting, power washing, doing some of those jobs for realtors and things like that, so that he can build out some of that, but also have some flexibility for some of these trips and trainings that we're going to be going and doing for others. We also have several places in the US that have also asked me to come. So Seattle, Montana, Atlanta, we'll do one here in Greenville. I'm trying to think of Phoenix. There's like a whole list that I'm trying to like figure out when we're going to go and do what, when, where. And so we will still be on mission. We still will be going. I just need to like pre-tell the group here and set up those trips. And I will continue to mentor other doulas to be able to come and do these trips with us and help teach and train and pour into these communities as well while we're pouring into these communities. Hawaii is one, for instance, where we have a unique opportunity to go to an island and train Indigenous women in birth work, because they're struggling there with the systems and not being able to birth the way that they traditionally want to birth, and how they're just being treated by being the Indigenous women and all of these things. And so there is a door there to go and train the Indigenous women to help support each other. Again, just like training refugees or immigrants to serve within their own community and culture. And so super excited about all these opportunities. We're just trying to map out how that works. And so we continue to be on mission. And this is still our heart, is birth work ministry. So I'm continuing to be poured into while continuing to pour out. And Josh is trying to bring in some income so we can continue to do that as well as there will be some local ministry that we are still making sure we're on the right track before we step into all of that as well. And so no matter where the Lord has us, we want to be open-handed and willing to do what he's asking us to, and do that blind. And if I can find a picture and have time, I'll throw it in here. But basically, when we were in India several years ago with a team, the Himalayan mountains were like right there, and on a clear day you could see them. And we were there in like February, March, so it wasn't super clear. And this one morning I was on top of the building doing my quiet time and praying, and it was so foggy, and you couldn't see these mountains that were like right there. They were just like, they weren't right there, but they're giant mountains, so they were right there. And you couldn't see them. And I was just praying, Lord, and he had already confirmed to us that we weren't going to be staying in India. Like we were visiting to see if that was a place for us after Atlanta, after the Georgia area. And I thought, for me, that was a great idea. Thought it was great. And he said, no, this isn't where I have and for you. And I said, I don't understand. Like, you brought us here, all of these things. And he said, in a roundabout way, I wasn't thinking this through before saying this, but basically, like, there are the mountains and you know that they're there, but you can't see them. And all you can see is this step. Like, I could only see a little bit in front of my feet. And he was saying, you don't get to see the full path. but you know the goal is the top of the mountain. You know that the mountains are there. And I'm just going to show you that next step. I'm going to show you this far because I want you to walk faithfully in that next step. And what I've learned looking back and in that time was also like if he showed me that whole path to the top of the mountain to the end, I would probably opt out. And looking back, there are things that if he would have pre-told me that, you're going to walk through this fire, you're going to go through this, I would probably, as a human, opt out. Like, no, thank you. And so he knows that about me. And he knows also that if he shows me too much, then I will try to take it and shanify it. And so it's about me having the faith to take that next step in where he's shown me to go in this direction that I know the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to share the gospel and make him known and to bring more people into the kingdom of God. And I can do that through meeting them right where they're at in the season of birth. And so that's all I need to know. And that is so hard for me. And so it's really hard for me to communicate to like our friends and family and supporters because I'm like, I want to give you my detailed plan. But the Lord keeps saying, Shanna, you don't get a detailed plan because I'm the plan. That's all you need to know is you show up and do the next thing because I'm the plan. You're not the one doing this. So stop trying to figure it out. You know that the top of the mountain, the goal is to bring more people to know who I am, to know their savior. And so all you are doing is showing up and being obedient. And you get to be an awesome part of that by being the hands and feet. But you got to take that next step. You got to blindly take that next step, not knowing the twists and the turns and all of the things because you'd opt out. And I don't want to opt out. And so, as much as it's against all of me to blindly walk forward without a plan, every time I've done that, he has shown up, he's provided, and it has been so much greater than what I could come up with. And so that's what we continue to do is walk by faith and take that next step, knowing that those glorious mountains are there. The kingdom of God is there. And my job isn't to figure out that path of getting people there. My job is to show up and do what he's asking me to do in that moment. And I cannot explain exactly how all of this South Carolina fits into 5 years from now. I have no idea. And I really want him to tell me. But what I do know is this is what he's saying. Just wait. Just wait. You'll see it later, but you just have to trust me. And this is a really big thing that I'm asking of you and your family. And it's a big hard thing. And it's not the thing that you chose or that you sought or that you wanted, but trust me. And so that's what we're doing. And so I know that's not a super great answer of what we're doing because um it's birth work ministry. We're going to continue to homeschool and we're going to continue to be as faithful as we can, taking that next step as he says, do this, walk here, go here, share this, and be faithful in that. So we are still on support as we go through this transition because we don't have jobs and like W-2s or anything. And we will continue to be on support for the Created to Birth and to go and continue to train and mentor and disciple birth workers all over the world. And so we hope and pray that you will continue to walk through this journey with us. And if you have questions, let me know, and I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. But the goal is still the same. The location is just here until it's wherever he takes us next. And whether that's short term, for sure, short term back over to the Philippines. But to finish whatever he's doing in us here. And as we go, and like I said, there is lots of opportunities. My camera went out, so I was probably about to say something really deep because technology always gets me. And so thank you for following along and being a part of what God is doing through our family and birth work ministry. And let me know if you have any questions. And I'm hoping to be better at keeping you guys up to date as we know things and as we have more stories to share.